Welcome back to Front and Center. I'm Jacquie Jordan, and we are the show where the storytellers, the change agents, and the activators from behind the scenes make a difference are sitting with us now, front and center. And joining us is the first Hispanic prison warden, my friend Marirosa Lamas. Welcome, Marirosa. I love that.
Thank you,
30
Jackie.
years.
Yes, 3 decades.
3 decades. You've seen a lot.
I've seen more than most.
I believe that.
Yes.
I believe that. And what you also did, which I really, really love, is you produced a TEDx event. I've been a TEDx curator myself. So you produced a TEDx event with women, lifers, from behind bars. Tell us about that.
Yes, I helped and assisted. So the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Corrections started a TEDx in different facilities. I happened to be working at our central office at that time that the project started. And one of the facilities that we went to was the State Correctional Institution at Muncie, Pennsylvania. I had happened to be a warden there at some time prior to that. And I had the pleasure of working with some of my ladies. One of the best TEDx moments was This Is Not Our Home, sung by the Lady Lifers at SCI Muncie. Yeah.
And lifers, like that means like they're there for life.
So the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has what is called natural life. And so when one is sentenced to natural life, it is natural life. You do not get out. The only way to get out is through commutation, pardons, or an appeal. However, when you are sentenced, prior to any of those processes taking place, it is your natural life. So if one is sentenced at the age of 25, you don't get out until you're called home.
Could you define Commonwealth for me?
So, interestingly enough, Commonwealth is a term used by 4 states and that is how they wrote their constitution. And really there is no legal difference between a Commonwealth and a state. It's in how their founding fathers wrote that particular constitution.
But it affects the prison system. Or the judicial system.
It can affect some of the judicial systems. Right. But honestly, it is a term used. Commonwealth and state can be not interchanged because
Kentucky, Virginia,
Massachusetts, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I'm rote in always saying the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
I've listened to you enough to hear you say that. It also means, if I'm correct, is that the Commonwealth can pursue a crime if the victim doesn't pursue it themselves.
That is my understanding, yes.
Yeah, that's kind of a unique law that you wouldn't know, which makes state jurisdiction different within the prison system of things.
Well, I think it's just state jurisdiction versus Department of Corrections, yeah.
We were talking earlier on our earlier podcast about a documentary that our filmmaker Sean Reid did called Black Serial Killers, Truth or Fiction. And part of his reason for wanting to produce the documentary is from a pop culture perspective. We've glamorized white male serial killers, but serial killers come in all sizes, shapes, and forms is his point of view. Being in the prison system, it was work for you, but people were coming in on all sorts of different crimes.
Yes. So in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you get sentenced to state time, as they call it. It's 24 months up to life and or execution. So that's where it is. So I served, because leadership positions, in my opinion, are positions of service. So I served men and women who were sentenced from 24 months to life, all different offenses, drug offenses, burglary, robbery, murder, rape. So you have the spectrum. It's a big umbrella that they all fit under.
And as the first lady Hispanic prison warden, who then and a superintendent, who did you report to? Is it the governor at that point?
So I reported to the deputy secretary. They reported to the executive deputy secretary and secretary of corrections. I had the pleasure of working for 2 phenomenal secretary of corrections, Jeff Beard and John Wetzel, both phenomenal men.
And you're also, with your background, was a hostage negotiator.
I did. I did do hostage negotiation and regional hostage negotiation when I was when I was a counselor. I served my career as a counselor, so you get trained because though everybody glamorizes, in my opinion, the flashbangs and la 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 la, 90% of great problem solving comes through communication.
Yes, you are a good communicator. For knowing you, you're a good communicator, and I find communication so important.
Yes. So if you're using all the toys in that toolbox, which is flashbang, smoke, la la la.
Wait, I don't even know what any of that means.
Well, smoke, you can smoke somebody out or pepper spray, whatever.
Do you mean in language, like in communication?
Like if you throw something into a cell
Got it.
force the man or woman to come out, right? Well, you have exhausted your communications because you're only using that 10%. I am of the mindset that use your 90% communication. And so as a hostage negotiator, you kind of learn really redefine and really hone in on those skills. Communication is key in keeping people safe.
Yeah, that's important. Wow.
That is huge in keeping people safe. People believe that they are going to be safe by a multitude of things. Communication really keeps you safe.
Oh, in talking with you earlier about this, you had said that there was, it only takes a second, any of us could be behind bars.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't believe that. I don't believe folks who say, I would never. No, you don't know the circumstances. You don't know how it is to live in a row home with a drug addicted mom and your father's in prison. You have no structure. You don't know what it is to come in and find your spouse in a compromising position. You don't know what it is. There's a whole scenario. So I really looked at the inmates, the offenders, however, Mr. and Mrs. is what I used to call them, as my next door neighbor, and but for the grace of God go I. There was nothing different about the incarcerated men and women that I was privileged to serve than me. There was nothing different. So judgment comes out the window. You stop judging. It's not my place to judge. It's the gentleman or the woman with the, black robe, went to school. That wasn't me. My job as a warden is to ensure that the community that I serve gets a better human being once they are released than they first came in, because that human being is going to be your neighbor.
What do you think is our pop culture obsession with criminals? We've got Netflix's Orange is the New Black. When I was producing television, my only time of actually going into a prison, by the grace of God, was here in the state of Florida. I actually went to see a young man who was on death row and was, because Florida changed their laws, he was a minor at the time. Florida changed their laws, and so he got commuted to life sentence. And so I brought my talk show host, Maury Povich, down to it. And when we went into the prison, I had to have a security clearance, no makeup, no jewelry, hair pulled back in a bun. And it was for a story of they called him the vampire cult killer. And it happened during the time that Court TV had just come out. So, if you can popularize a crime with a fancy name. But he got put on death row for 16. And don't get me wrong, the crime was heinous. But it also got out of context because he got the label as a vampire cult killer. So when I went and saw him, I think he was 16, 17, or 18. But what I saw was a scared boy. A very, and so in spite of the whole media story around it, I just saw, a human. He's still behind bars. He's at 39 years old, and I'm sure that's what you see all the time. But, one of the most famous movies is Shawshank Redemption. So is there redemption?
There's always redemption. There's always hope. But I think the media and pop culture is fascinated because they never think it's them.
Right.
And so when you kind of depersonalize it, then you're okay with whatever happens. I don't watch any of the prison shows. Now, I'm a Dateline freak.
You do watch Dateline.
Oh my gosh, who doesn't? And don't get a burner phone before you are going to divorce your wife when you have a mistress.
And a life insurance policy.
And a life insurance. Just a couple of tips. But with that being said, people are fascinated with corrections because they think it's like this underworld of crime, and the corrections officers are always up for sale, and they're not. They're not. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Corrections has some of the most professional corrections officers in the nation that stand head and shoulders above anybody.
Yeah, not according to the orange is the new black.
Exactly. And so it's, it's tantalizing. It's, oh my God, yes, that's CEO. Well, no. They're hardworking men and women ensuring to keep their communities safe. And that's the bottom line. Is there a rotten apple? Unequivocally. But pick out a profession that there isn't a rotten apple in.
What could be improved with the correctional system?
Education, programming, all those things. I'm a huge advocate. You could close down all correctional facilities if you would put those monies into the educational system. There is a link between poor educational systems and correctional systems. They call it the gateway, the highway.
Well, and they're both investments in our community and our citizens in our community, and how citizens are going to serve our community. Education and corrections.
Correct.
I mean, with the word correction, meaning that it's meant to correct.
It's, that's an old term, but yes, it's meant to correct. It's meant to rehabilitate. And that pipeline, so if you give one skills that they can make a living, and it may not be the living that they had before, right? Cognitive-based therapies, it's proven that they will result in changed behavior. So I'm a big proponent of education.
So what are your favorite stories of redemption that you've seen?
Every single day when, I had an opportunity to meet with one of my lady lifers, and I met her for coffee, and I met her for lunch, or some of the men that got commuted. I see their careers taking off. It for me, and I certainly cannot speak for any other superintendent, as we call them in Pennsylvania, or warden, how joyful that is that you were privileged enough to help this person in a time of their life and help them to be and get where they are.
That's stunning.
So, yeah, I loved my job.
It's a stunning service. Yeah, I get that from you.
Yeah,
That's
it's a great job.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
It has been my pleasure.
The first Hispanic lady prison warden. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for making a difference. Real change agent.
Thank you so much.
Front and center. Yeah,
my pleasure.
If you'd like to find out more about Front and Center, please check us out here on Rumble or any other place that you listen to your favorite podcast. I'm Jacquie Jordan, and we'll be right back.